darkness. Not the darkness of a closed eye, but the darkness of a place light has never touched. 1 kilometer down, the ocean stops being blue and becomes black. Absolute. Total. The pressure here would crush a submarine like a paper cup. And yet, something is falling through it, on purpose. A shape the size of a school bus, moving with total calm, into a void that kills almost everything that enters it. This is not a monster. This is not a myth. This is the sperm whale, and it is hunting, patient and unhurried, in a realm that most living things could never even reach. To understand this animal is to understand one of the strangest, most extreme experiments evolution has ever run. A creature carrying the largest brain that has ever existed on Earth. A biological sonar more powerful than any naval system built by human hands. A society bound by loyalty, stronger than almost anything else in the animal kingdom. Today, we go down with it. Into the cold, into the crush, into the dark. Before a sperm whale can hunt in the abyss, it has to solve a problem that should be impossible. How do you sink 3 tons of body weight a kilometer into the ocean, and then rise back to the surface, without an engine, without wings, without ever running out of air? The answer sits inside the whale's enormous, block-shaped head, in a cavity filled with a strange, waxy oil called spermaceti, the very substance that once made this animal the most hunted creature on the planet. That oil changes density with temperature. Cool it, and it thickens, becomes heavier, and pulls the whale downward like a stone. Warm it, using blood flow from the whale's own body, and it thins out, becomes lighter, and lifts the whale back toward the sun. It is, quite literally, a biological ballast tank. A submarine that adjusts its own weight, using nothing but internal plumbing, millions of years before humans figured out the same principle, with steel and compressed air. No engineer designed this system. No blueprint exists for it anywhere. It simply emerged, generation after generation, refined by the ocean itself, until it became flawless. This single organ is why the sperm whale can do what almost nothing else on Earth can. Commute, casually, between the sunlit surface and the crushing night of the deep ocean, twice an hour, for its entire life, as if the boundary between 2 worlds simply doesn't apply to it. But buoyancy only gets the whale there. Survival is a different problem entirely. At 1,000 meters, at 2,000, at nearly 3,000 meters down, the pressure is staggering. Enough to collapse an unprepared lung, enough to force nitrogen into the bloodstream and turn it into the deadly bubbles divers know as decompression sickness. A human diver who rushed this dive would die. The sperm whale does this every single day and walks away unharmed. Its secret lies in a body built almost entirely around collapse. Its ribcage is hinged, designed to fold inward under pressure rather than fight it. Its lungs empty out air before the deepest part of the dive, so there is almost nothing left to compress. Its bones and tissues are soaked in oxygen-storing proteins, allowing it to hold its breath, motionless, hunting, thinking, for over an hour at a time. It doesn't resist the ocean's crushing weight. It simply agrees to it and lets the pressure pass through like wind through an open door. Where a rigid structure would shatter, the whale's body flexes, folds, and yields, turning one of the most hostile environments in existence into something it can move through as easily as a bird moves through open sky. Now picture the scene at the bottom of that dive. No sunlight has ever reached this far, and yet the sperm whale is not blind here, because sight was never the plan. Inside that same massive head, past the oil reservoir, sits the most powerful sound-generating organ in the animal kingdom. The whale forces air through it and produces a burst of clicks so loud they can exceed 230 decibels underwater, louder, by a wide margin, than a jet engine at takeoff. These are not random noises. They are a targeting system. Sound waves race out into the blackness, strike solid objects, the flank of a giant squid, the outline of a rival male, and bounce back, painting a 3-dimensional picture in the whale's mind, built entirely out of echoes. Somewhere down there, a giant squid twists through the current, believing itself hidden by the dark. It is not hidden. It has never been hidden. The whale doesn't need to see it. It can hear its shape, its size, its exact position in the water, and it closes the distance in silence, guided by nothing but returning sound. Now surface with us, back into the light, because the story of the sperm whale isn't only about depth, it's about family. Sperm whale society is built around tight-knit groups of mothers, calves, and adult females, bound together for decades. And when danger arrives at the surface, a pod of orcas circling, hungry and coordinated, these whales respond with something that looks less like animal instinct and more like military formation. The adults arrange themselves in a tight circle, heads pointed inward, tails facing outward toward the threat. The calves are tucked safely into the center, shielded on every side by the bodies of the group. Marine biologists call this the Marguerite Formation, named for its resemblance to the petals of a flower. To an orca, it presents nothing but a ring of powerful tail flukes, the whale equivalent of a fortress wall, with no way in. It is cooperation under pressure, built entirely on trust. And it is one of the clearest signs we have that these animals do not simply survive together. They protect each other, without hesitation, every single time, forming a wall of muscle and instinct that few predators are willing to test twice. Here is the part of the story most people never hear. Every time a sperm whale returns from the deep, gorged on squid pulled from far below the sunlit zone, it eventually surfaces, and it releases waste rich in iron and nutrients, dragged up from the depths, where sunlight can never carry them on its own. That waste doesn't just disappear. It spreads across the surface and feeds vast blooms of phytoplankton, the microscopic plants responsible for producing a significant share of the oxygen on this planet. Those blooms pull carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere as they grow, and when they die, much of that carbon sinks with them, locked away at the bottom of the ocean, sometimes for centuries. Multiply this by the tens of thousands of sperm whales still moving through our oceans, diving, surfacing, feeding, fertilizing, again and again across entire lifetimes, and what emerges is staggering. A single species, quietly moving carbon from our atmosphere into the deep sea, simply by living the way it always has. The sperm whale was never just a predator. It has been running a slow, patient climate operation since long before we understood what a climate even was. One dive, one meal, one cloud of waste at a time, spread across an ocean too vast for us to fully measure. Consider what we've found, down there in the dark. An animal that engineers its own buoyancy, that shrugs off pressure that would kill almost anything else alive, that sees with sound, in a place light forgot, that builds walls out of its own family to protect its young, and that, without ever knowing it, has been quietly stabilizing the very air we breathe. We spent centuries hunting this animal for the oil in its head, never once realizing what we were actually looking at. The largest brain to ever exist on this planet, carried by a creature that spends most of its life somewhere we will never see, doing something we are only now beginning to understand. The ocean's deepest secret was never a monster. It was an engineer, quietly at work, one dive at a time, in a world we are only just beginning to explore, far beneath the waves, far beyond our reach, smarter than we ever gave it credit for.